In tonight's Tax Insider, Trumponomics. The Republican frontrunner has unveiled his highly anticipated tax plan, saying it would eliminate income taxes for millions of households. But is it a good deal? For insight, we turn to our guest tonight on Capitol Insider, Steve Ellis, Vice President of the nonpartisan Taxpayers for Common Sense. Okay, Steve, let's start at the beginning. Trump's tax proposal would cut taxes to individuals making less than $25,000 a year and couples earning less than $50,000. He also plans to lower the highest individual tax rate from nearly 40% to 25%. Sounds like a great campaign promise, but is this feasible?
Well, I don't know if any campaign promise is ever entirely feasible, but certainly this seems pretty aggressive and pretty generous. In fact, that couple and that individual you were talking about, he wouldn't just cut their taxes, they would eliminate it. It would be the 0% bracket, and then you'd have a 10% bracket, a 20% bracket, and then that 25% bracket would apply to people making more than $300,000 a year. So this is, it's always hard to know in any of these kind of campaign promises, because even though they give you some specifics, they don't give you really the details, and they haven't really been scored out, but this seems pretty aggressive and not very realistic.
Also on Trump's agenda is to lower the corporate tax rate from 36% to 15% and give corporations an incentive to bring their businesses back from overseas. Is that a good idea, Steve?
Well, clearly, Morris, their international taxation system is a mess, and it's got real problems, but not just with the inversions, where companies are being acquired by smaller companies overseas to get a better tax rate, but then also that there's trillions of dollars that are parked overseas with deferred taxes, and that we're not actually seeing that revenue. He's trying to bring that back, and then that can actually use that one-time revenue, really, to drive down the overall tax rate for corporations. Clearly, something has to be done here. Most companies don't pay anywhere near the maximum rate. They have a lot of different ways of avoiding the taxes, and so something needs to be done here. This seems pretty aggressive as well.
Now, Politico reports that Trump's plan would increase the deficit by more than $10 trillion over the next decade, and others say all of the tax cuts don't add up to a balanced budget. What would Trump need to do to make his plan work?
It's hard to see how exactly he could make it work, particularly because the way that he's promised this has been not just that one-time inflection of cash from overseas repatriated income, but it's because he wants to get rid of tax breaks. But then at the same time, he's taken some of the biggest tax expenditures, like the mortgage interest deduction, off the table. Well, somehow the math has to work, and it's pretty clear that you can't just grow your way to get this amount of revenue. And so I don't see any way that he could ever get the math to work.
All right, before we go, Steve, let's talk about the current budget battle in Congress. Many analysts think House Speaker John Boehner's resignation may have averted another shutdown. Do you think they're right?
I do, and actually I thought that we weren't going to have a shutdown right now. Initially, that we would have some sort of short-term extension, but this is all pretty clear. The package is moving through the Senate, and it will be in the House soon to do a continuing resolution.
What happens after that CR runs out?
Well, that CR runs out December 11th, and that's when I think it's much more likely that we're going to be seeing a possible government shutdown. And also, in between then and now, Morris, you have to remember we also have the debt limit coming up next month, and that's going to be another battle royale we'll have to see. But so I think that when you get to that CR, it's going to be really hard to, in December 11th, that's when you might actually see a shutdown, because that's going to be the year-long funding, and that's when the real battles will heat up.
Keeps you busy, but we're always good to have you. We enjoy having you on the show, so keep us posted.
Absolutely. Thank you, Morris.
Steve Ellis, Vice President of Taxpayers for Common Sense.